Scooby-Doo in Arabian Nights is not a good film, and I was actually really surprised after watching it to find that the overall rating on IMDb is 5.4 out of 10, which is much higher than I would give it. But I had a look at them, and it seems like that's divided by very, very low ratings and some people who rate it quite highly. Either way, I do not rate it highly at all. This was released in 1994. It's a feature film directed by June Falkstein and Joanna Ramirza, and it starts off with Shaggy and Scooby, and then for the most of it, they're not even in it. And that would be okay if the rest of it was actually interesting, but unfortunately, it isn't. Shaggy and Scooby are in Arabia, and they end up annoying the Caliphate. Now, credit to the film, I'd never heard of the term Caliphate. I got a little bit of an education, so it's not all that. And without going into too much detail, Shaggy ends up disguising as a girl, as a harem girl, and they end up telling stories, and they tell two stories. One is a parody of Aladdin, and it features Yogi Bear, which was quite, well, unexpected. And bearing in mind, Shaggy and Scooby are not in these stories properly, so they're not really in the film very much. But the first story is Aladdin, the second one is a version of Sinbad, and they're not interesting. I also don't love the animation. It's not terrible, but there's just something a little cheap. Not tremendously so, but certainly compared to some other Scooby cartoons and certainly compared to other films released at this time, the animation just isn't what I would have liked it to have been. And then you throw in a really boring film with some very interesting decisions, but that's not necessarily a good thing. I don't rate it very highly at all. Had Shaggy and Scooby been in the stories more and it felt more like a Scooby film, then maybe it would have been a little bit better. But even then, I feel like we needed a proper mystery. It needed to be more in keeping with what we expect. There are certain expectations when it comes to Scooby films, and it didn't get anywhere close to meeting any of those expectations. If I were to rank every Scooby film that I've seen so far, I've seen a few, but I still have a lot to go. This would be the last. Absolutely, so far, this would be the last. It will take a lot to be worse than this. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But for now, Scooby Doo in Arabian Nights is not one that I enjoyed. And unless you want to watch it to see how bad it is, because sometimes bad films can be fun, is this one of those films? If you're going into it expecting it to be bad, then maybe. But if you're going into it expecting a good film, then that's not a great experience. So depending on what you're looking for, I might recommend it. But if you're looking for a good Scooby film, Scooby Doo and Arabian Nights is not one that I'd recommend.